Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloney, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership for the Texas Elementary Principal Association. I'm thrilled each week to bring you different guests who have encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another, and bring them on to share some of their story with you in hopes that it helps you be brave enough to tell some of yours. I am thrilled this week to have my special guest, Jeromie Heath, on with me. Jeromie, why don't you tell everybody a little about who you are?
Sure. I'm Jeromie Heath. I'm National Board Certified Elementary Teacher, 16 years of teaching, and I'm very passionate about student engagement, getting kids excited, engaged, and ignited in their own learning, and more recently, getting families engaged in their children's learning too.
I love it. So, Jeromie, you and I have known each other virtually for a few years now. You know, I had you as a guest when I was doing the Kids Deserve It podcast, and that you did multiple wardrobe changes throughout that and all kinds of things. So talking to you now in this interview, I'm like, look, he's wearing normal clothes. I mean, you've got a killer hat on, but
that's me right there.
I love it. So, Jeromie, you've mentioned you've been in education for 17 years, you said?
16. But, you know, I've been doing it. I've been volunteering in elementary school since I was in high school, just as something to do for fun, and all throughout college. So I can't put a limit on a time frame on how long I've been teaching.
So when you were growing up, did you always know you wanted to be in education in some form or fashion?
No.
What were you thinking that you were going to do instead?
Anything but. I could not wait to get out of school. I was one of those kids that stared at the clock, and every second seemed like an eternity. I could not wait to get out of there. I was one of those kids who, if you said, what's your favorite subject in school, I would say art, PE, recess, or lunch. And it wasn't until I started volunteering in college. And again, this is just for fun. And at the time, I was looking for opportunities for different clubs, for different organizations to get my feelers out there as to what I wanted to do. Because I didn't know. I knew I was creative, and I knew I loved life. But when I went into elementary schools, I noticed that there were also kids there who felt the same dread and angst about school and education that I did. And I said, this is time to stop this. The cycle does not have to continue. And I wanted to do something about it. And then I was hooked. Ever since that first lesson that thankfully, the teacher that I was volunteering with, she let me kind of take a spin on one of the activities. And I was just hooked on watching kids get excited about learning.
Awesome. So, so have you always done elementary all 16 years?
Yes, I have. And in college, when you're getting your teaching degree, they have you try, which is wonderful. They have you try different areas of education, special education, high school, middle school. Elementary school is definitely where I feel my vibe is. Because just like you said before, the costumes and the creativity, and I'm just a big kid. So I love going to work, to school every day, and I get to be a big kid, and it's like the Peter Pan syndrome. I don't have to ever grow up.
Well, you know, and that's what I've loved about the work that I've seen you talk about and the work that you've shared online is that you're very big in that big kid element, but also the engagement piece. Has that always been kind of the avenue you've taken when doing instruction, or was that something you kind of noticed that you were moving into?
See, to me, instruction, and it's probably going to rub people the wrong way, but instruction is secondary to me. It's about the igniting a passion for kids to want to learn. And every year, I don't start teaching until they want to learn. And once they want to learn, they learn so much more because they want to be there. They look at you as not just a facilitator of knowledge. They look at you as a conduit to where you're more of a guide, you're more of a coach to their own learning, to their own passions, to their own motivations. It's the teach the man to fish sort of deal. But it's not just teach a man how to fish. The man doesn't even want fish. He hates fish. He's allergic to fish. He doesn't want anything to do with fish. But once you get kids hooked and excited, which they naturally are, which is kind of sad, is that when they come in as kindergarten, first grade, they love school. And then that passion sadly dies. So to reignite that passion, it became my own passion. And that is the crux of why I became a teacher. And I do oftentimes say that in the classroom is that if you walk out of here not understanding a topic or a skill, I have no problem with that because that's not why I'm here. I want you to want it, though. I want you to know where you are in the process. I want you to want to learn, and I want you to try learning. That's all I can ask of you.
So if you have those teachers listening right now, or parents at home who think, I can't even get my kid to begin to want, where do they even begin with that?
Have a conversation. Have a conversation. There's so many assumptions that people make. First week of school, first day of school, oh, all the kids want to be here. And I hear from teachers often, oh, they don't care. Well, have you talked to them about it? Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I teach 5th grade last year, and the first week of school and second week of school, we talk about how education moves on throughout life, and it can lead to college, it can lead to careers, and education never stops. They had no idea that that existed. They had no idea what college was. They had no idea what a career was. And then to watch them get excited about it was exciting in and of itself. We're not talking to kids about it. We assume they want to go to school every day. We assume they know what school is for, and we assume they know the future and how it lays out, but they don't. Just sit down and say, why don't you like school? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the purpose of it. Let's talk about the value in it. And of course, they're kids, so they're very live in the moment, so they don't understand that this is leading to something else unless you sit down and explain it. I feel like, and this podcast is called Tell Your Story. If parents tell their own story of their educational path to their own kids, you will see eyes light up. I've been in, I don't like to call them parent-teacher conferences. I like to call them data conferences or just meetings. But when I watch a parent explain, yeah, I'm the first in the family that graduated from college. And then the kids get excited about that. They're like, what? Tell me more. Or, well, yeah, I had a parent say, oh, yeah, I actually dropped out of college because I didn't think it was for me. But actually, I didn't want to be an engineer. I wanted to be a chef instead. And kids love that. They like to hear their parents' story. They like to hear their teacher's story. And every year I tell my story. And I'm very familiar with your story. Mr. Ted Talks. But let's just talk to each other more and just share experiences with each other more. We want that human connection, yes, and we want those relationships, but also we can learn from each other's paths, which I don't think we're doing. We're jumping into a textbook, but we're not learning from each other first.
Well, and I love so much of what you just said, because part of it is you spending the time to ask somebody about their story and listen to them, regardless of the child's age and even your colleagues. But the other half that you said is equally as important, and that is making sure you tell your own. And obviously, as educators, you know where to draw those personal boundary lines and how much to share and how much not to share. But kids want to see you as human too, whether you're their parent or their teacher. And so when we can begin to share some of those personal elements, we really get to see the whole person, and making those relationships come first is key. So I think you hit the nail on the head. So, one kind of thing I want to stem from that is, if you had to think about something that has happened in your life that really shaped you into the man you are today, what is that thing that you think is really that is part of your story?
Oh, there's so many.
I'm sure there's like 100.
I told you, I texted you earlier. I said, you're going to give me some sort of Barbara Walters or Oprah sort of question. I knew it was coming. I'm in my living room. I'm going to start jumping on the couch like Tom Cruise. Wow, there's so many. But I would say some of the pivotal moments, unfortunately, but not unfortunately, came from negative experiences. Came from a negative interaction from a teacher. It came from a negative perception on who I was or what the world was about. One small instance, and actually now as a teacher, these negative instances help me grow up and grow as a person and think, I'm never going to do that to another human being. And that causes us to have a positive influence on the rest of the world. So in many ways, I am thankful for these negative sort of things. But 11th grade, so all you 11th grade teachers out there that are listening, my writing teacher wrote on my essay that I turned in. She gave me a C, and I remember very vividly, a big old C. And up at the top in red letters, it said, I do not see writing in your future.
Wow.
And you see some of my books and things. So I graduated I have a writing degree. I graduated in top 5% of my college class for writing. And I author so many kids, like through Shutterfly and whatnot, but I write all the time, and that's actually where my passion is, in writing. But that comment at that time really resonated with me because it was such a kick in the stomach. as to what society labels us. Like, because of this writing, you're never going to be this. So as a teacher, I want to make sure I use those moments to say, let's learn from this. Or if writing isn't for you, and that's not my place to tell a student, but if writing isn't for them, there's all these other choices in life that you can partake in, you can grow in.
Well, and and one thing I want to ask about that is I think a lot of us can think back to a time where somebody said something like that that was really painful or hurtful, and a lot of us have found ways to grow through it and still be successful, even in an area that somebody said we weren't going to be successful. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the writing thing that you just mentioned. You write stuff now and are working on all kinds of different writing things in your own professional life. Do you ever find yourself, even though you know how strong of a writer you are now, do you ever find yourself thinking back to that day and going, maybe she was right, maybe my writing does suck today, maybe this or that, like still having those moments of doubt that stem from that?
Yes and no, but as a writer, you you're never good at writing. Here's what I mean. No, here's what I mean. Because
I agree.
Todd, I'm currently like working on a book right now about like how do you re-engage the unengageable, sort of like kids like me growing up. My own students helped me in September, October, November. I put up the draft of my book, the outline. I said, hey guys, help me out. I am learning, and they gave me great advice. I'm learning from 10-year-old writers, and they gave me great ideas. So I'm 38 years old. I have a writing degree. Yes, I'm top 10%. And for those of you just listening, I'm doing air quotes. I'm very visual. If you're listening in your car, I'm doing air quotes. But I don't ever feel like I'm a master writer. There's always more room to grow. And just because I have a college degree, I can listen to an 8-year-old and listen to their feedback and their advice and grow from that. And I do bring up, I do tell my story of that seed to my students, because I, number one, want them to know I'm not that type of teacher. I'm not going to label you. I am going to evaluate you, but with evaluation doesn't come harsh criticism. It comes with feedback on how to get better. And it comes with things on how you did well. And everybody is a teacher and everybody is a learner. And I strongly believe that. In those moments, it's not that I have doubt, but I am aware of where my limitations are. And I am aware that I need people in this world to help guide me, or else you can't just walk around thinking that you know everything.
Right. So what is one of your favorite lessons that you've used to engage learners?
Oh man, well, as you've probably seen behind me, and if you're listening on podcast, you definitely have to check this out on video. But if you see behind me, these are all the different themes and all the different ways that I engage kids. Here's the kick. Is I put a whole bunch. You've known me for years, Todd. I put a whole bunch of like video game sort of things online because I mix fractions, something I hated, with video games, something I loved, and as a teacher, I use them both in the classroom. So I'll dress up as Mario. I'll decorate the whole classroom as video games. I make math centers that are video game themed. I make ELA centers that are video game themed. You read about video game designers and learn about standards at the same time. But then I have teachers that email me and say, well, I don't like video games, so I don't think I can use that. But I think they're missing the point, is that I'm taking something that I loved as a kid, I was passionate about as a kid and as a person, and I'm bringing it to life for the kids in my classroom. And because they can see that I love it, they also start to love it. And if they don't like video games, that's not the point. They love the fact that I love what I'm doing.
Right.
And engagement starts with the teacher. It starts with having a fun, engaged teacher. So I said this, and by the way, for all you first-year teachers out there, this is an amazing journey, and don't feel like you are the one that has to learn from everybody. You have just as much to teach.
Right.
Because I've taught with a couple of first-year teachers in my career, and it's a wonderful experience. Where Allison was on my 5th grade team a couple years back, and she said, "Well, I don't really like the mad scientist theme that you do, or the pirates, but I love butterflies." I said, "Girl, then you go out and do butterflies, and read about butterflies and do math with butterflies." And it really worked, because it ignited a passion in her to like coming to school every day. And that ignited a passion in her kids, and then they ended up sharing some of their passions with her. So that's this whole learning from each other thing, because I don't get this Minecraft deal or what is it, Fortnite? This Fortnite thing, I don't get it.
But that's the thing. It's like there's so many things that our kids are into that we may not understand or be into
Right.
at all. But what I love is you still try to find ways to use that because that's what they're into, period. And as adults, we can't sit in the room and go, I don't think that's cool. I'm not going to use that because I'm going to use what I think is cool. It's like, well, you're not really there for you. You're there for them. And that's kind of what I work with educators all the time and tell them too. And, you've been recognized all over for just the great exciting and work you do to try to be different. Now, I know that when you do try to be different, no matter who you are in a school or in a system, there's backlash, there's ostracizing, you feel like sometimes you're up against a big beast who doesn't believe in what you're doing. How do you keep pushing ahead when you feel like you're the only one trying to do things better or more exciting or more for the kids?
All right, I got 3 things to say. I'm probably going to forget some as I talk, because teachers love to talk. I like that you said you try to be different. Number 1, I don't try to be. I've always been this way. And out of all the themes that I do, I love dinosaurs. I love cockroaches and wolves and bats and spiders and all these things that I bring to life in the class. I'm not trying to be different. I just am different. And I also know that some of my students don't engage with some of the topics that I'm throwing at them. But because I'm willing to, like you said, listen, and because they know I'm different, it makes them feel okay with being different themselves. So that is number 1, is that I am seen as a teacher who is trying to do something that the others are not. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just being me. But at the same time, I'm teaching the same standards. I'm collaborating with team members. I'm giving the same assessments at the same time, and I'm doing everything that a teacher needs to do, especially to be a team player. It's just that I do it in a different way, right. And it's not to be different. It's just because that's my way to do it. I feel successful in that manner. And the second thing is, yes, I've been met by the monster, but a true principal, and I haven't seen you in action as a principal, but a true principal that would watch me and just know that I know my standards, I know my skills, I know my data, I know my students, I know a lot of things, that they will let you be different. Because it's not about how you're teaching, it's about how they're learning. Are the kids learning? Are kids connecting with you? Are kids making growth and progress? And most of the principals I've worked with, once they see, yes, you have that connection with kids, you're making progress with kids, kids are growing under your leadership and guidance, you go do your thing. I don't care what you do. And the third thing is we have to remember as educators that kids are all different. Teaching a one-size-fits-all program, and the monster wants to tell you to teach it in the same way because, and I understand, it's taken me a couple years to understand, I'm almost hitting 40. So it's taken me some years to understand that the monster also, we want the same goal. The monster, the districts, they want to chide you sometimes for being different because they're worried that you're not having the students in your forefront of your mind. For example, I'm not just teaching about whales or sharks. I'm teaching the standards, but using sharks as the theme. So when they see that I'm doing something quote unquote different, they're worried that I'm not teaching what I'm supposed to be teaching and I'm not getting results, which I have seen out there. There are some teachers who say, oh, I also do this, I also do that. I dress up and I do this and we make donuts and we do all these things. And I'm like, but what standard does that address? Well, we're doing it for fun. Well, that's not what I'm doing. Yeah, no. I'm teaching fractions, but it just happens to be Mario Brothers on the PowerPoint or behind me. See, it's a sewer system. To teach about context clues, we read about the history of the toilet and the history of the sewer. When they read the article about Thomas Crapper, oh man, that was the best thing. But that's not me being different. That's me having my own teaching style, right, and applying it to student learning and to the pedagogy. Which, I mean, we're all different, so why not make it different?
But in thinking about this, I mean, obviously you're going to get pushback, and you may at times feel like, is what I'm doing even worth it? Like, how do you keep that doubt from creeping in and controlling your future decisions?
Do you know what makes it worth it is I really do get them. It's fantastic. I get a thank you almost by every kid on the way out.
Mhm.
I get a thank you. And I get thank yous, especially this year. Oh, this year I got a lot of thank yous almost after every lesson. I get a thank you. Here's here's the thing too. For all you teachers out there, I can help you with this. It's amazing. And when you realize that it's happening, because it happens slowly, I pass them out a test and they say, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Heath. Thank you for the test. Thank you for the homework. I've had kids ask for more homework. I've said, well, that's the end of today's geometry lesson. And they all go, oh. Or I'll say, it's time to go, time to pack up. And they go, already? Those are things that just, I'm getting goosebumps right now. Those are things that I live for. I live for the moments where they want to stay in school. One of my students actually said to me, I hate Fridays. I said, why do you hate Fridays? And if you saw my blog, I wrote about this, is that they said on Friday, it means I have to wait 2 whole days to come back to school.
Aw.
And I love Monday morning because that means I get a full week, which is really, it was just eye-opening for me. Is these are the moments that keep me going. It's the thank yous. It's when they see something in 3D and they go, wow, because they got a right answer in math. It's the unexpected element when I decorate my classroom. But it's mostly in the thank yous that I get for just being there for them.
Right. So I want to lead into my second to last question, and that is, you made an incredibly difficult decision this year to step out of the classroom and kind of pursue another dream of yours. Talk to me about that and how you came to that decision.
It was a hard decision, but it was a timely decision, and it was actually a lot of factors. I don't want to bore you with all the factors, but it's been something that's been coming for a while. Here's what Todd means, everybody, because Todd and I have had this journey together. He knows, though. Okay, I'm getting older and I'm tired. Here's what I mean. Doing all the activities, and I do at least 2 to 3 hours outside of school every day on making activities, making it more engaging. I never do the same thing twice. I'm always improving, always working on it, always doing different themes, always doing, we all do, right? We get exhausted. But the thing is, I was having colleagues come to me and wanting to learn from me and wanting to collaborate with me and wanting to build things together. And then I was having people virtually online that are saying, how do I do this? How do I work with this? So I'm adding that onto this. And then it takes a lot of time and energy. And as I'm getting older, I see that all this inspiration and passion I have can help others to develop their passion and inspiration as well, you know, Todd. And when you give, it's not just when you give a talk to a group of people, it's when you take a piece of your inspiration and what makes you you and share it with somebody else who needs it. See, I have a ton of inspiration. I have a ton of motivation. My students every year get a great experience in the classroom, and their test scores double, and they love life, and they say things like, this is the best year ever. But now what can I do to help other teachers who want to do that?
Right.
I had a colleague last year, Lainey, who I loved collaborating with her because she was always, first of all, we always said we all the time, we and our. And I was learning from her about how to do differentiated math centers. She was learning from me. She loved the mythology unit. She didn't read any of the mythology, so we read it together and we built it together. And she said, man, you really need to do this for more teachers. You need to get out there and give ideas because not all of us have this creative mind that you do. And that's where I kind of pride myself, is on the creativity and the problem solving and how to take something that might be mundane and make it fun. So over and over, colleagues have approached me. Over and over, I have seen my students succeed. And it was actually this year when I ran the idea past my own students. And before I said I was tired, but here's what I mean. I don't want to do a full teaching career of 30 years and then say, okay, now's the time to spread my message. But I'm too exhausted to do that.
Right.
I want to do it at a time where I have energy, I have enthusiasm to get out there, because we're about the same age. I don't know if you want everybody knowing that, but did you? Uh-oh, spoiler.
I am not almost 40. Thank you very much.
Well, almost. Come on. But well, I want to get out there before it's not just too late, but before I lose a lot of what I got going and a lot of this creativity and passion. And I asked my students this year, and they were encouraging me as well. They said, yeah, we actually want more students to see what you have to offer other teachers, and we want and it's okay if you miss out on teaching a group of 30 students, because think of how many kids you can reach nationwide. And it was their support, my own student support, the parents' support, my principal's support. A lot of people said, yeah, we believe it's really time. And they've been encouraging me to write books as well. They said, you need to get your ideas down, because if you ever leave the classroom, you need to make sure that you leave a part of some of your, not just legacy, but some of your ideas. Because I don't want it to die in my hard drive.
Right. Well, I think what I love about what you've shared is that, everybody has a different path in life. Everybody has your passions may change, your goals may change, your whatever. But some of us, when we reach certain areas, we just feel drawn to something slightly different. And I love that you are feeling that, and even though it is terrifying to step out on that limb, it is hard to say goodbye to those kids you hold close to every day, you're still pursuing something else you love. And I think sometimes when people in education hear other educators go and pursue another passion, they can look down on them for it, like, oh, well, you're leaving the kids, you're doing this, how dare you? And it's like, my passions matter too, my excitement and heart. And it's not you saying you love your students any less. It's you saying, this is also a passion of mine, and I'd rather pursue it now than wonder, what if I never do pursue this? And so I applaud you. I know everybody's different. Some people will never leave the classroom, and they are content and thrilled with that, and I cheer them on and celebrate. Some step out into PD, some step up into administration, some step off to the side in a different role there. I think it's all about us finding ways to celebrate and build each other up, regardless of where we choose to pursue our next passion. And so I applaud you for being brave enough to step out on this limb, because what you are doing is new and different. And I'm sure parts of you are terrified it's not going to be as great as being in the classroom, but you want to try it.
I want to echo what you said as well. See, I want to say two things too, to kind of close this, is that we all came into teaching with a different motivation, all of us. And I put a poll on Twitter recently. You saw it. I said, it's probably not going to get many retweets, but let's just see. And I said, why did you go into teaching? Why is teaching your career? Everybody has a different reason. Mm-hmm. So for one teacher to judge another, or maybe they left the classroom because they were tired. Maybe they left the classroom because it wasn't for them. Maybe they left the classroom because they're in a coaching position, or they're in an entirely different career, or they're in administrative. We're all different. We all came into teaching with different passions, whereas one teacher would say, I love reading, and I want to make the world passionate about reading just as I was as a kid. That's fantastic. But here's the thing. I went into education to do all the wrongs that were done to me.
Right.
To have the kid that says, I hate school, and they are out there. There's a lot of them out there. Some of them are silent, and they look like they're compliant, but they don't like school. They don't like what they're doing. I came into this education world to instill passion in students and to get them excited about learning. And I don't look at it as leaving the classroom. I look at it as making that same passion, the same motivation, and making a bigger impact. Reaching people all over the world and all over America. Yes, I don't have those close connections with kids, but my passion lies in proving that school doesn't have to be boring, proving that education can be fun, and proving that there's more to life than a worksheet.
I love that. And I love that this is where you feel your path is right now. You're not saying anybody else's path is right or wrong. Right. I love that. So the question I always love to end on, Jeromie, is if there is one thing that you wish more people knew or understood, what would your one thing be? I know this is going to be hard for you. Whoa. I know.
Okay.
One, Jeromie.
One thing that I wish everybody would know.
Or that more people just understood.
More people understood. Well, I'll just use something that came up in our conversation. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be different. We're all on the same team. We all have different passions. We all have different goals. We're all different people. It's okay to be different.
Awesome. That is the perfect way to end this. Well, Jeromie, I have really just admired your work from afar. Like I said, we've never met in person, but we've been friends for years virtually. But I think you do incredible work. I'm excited for your next steps, and I really appreciate you making some time to chat with me tonight.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me. This has been awesome. Hopefully one day we will meet, and it's okay to be different. I don't know what to say.
Well, and I want to thank everybody for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube. Check us out every week as I pick another guest to bring and share you their story. And crazy enough, this week I've got like 3 more guests. So it's a busy week this week. But I hope today's conversation inspired and encouraged you to get out there and be brave enough to tell your story. Because like I say every week, every story matters. Have a great night, everyone.